be gambling, and if you're religious, can you pray that you win the lottery?
Of course.
Would God help
why
you?
not? As long as you're philanthropic with a winning.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, there you go. Theologian Vicky Beeching, comedian David Schneider, taking us through the papers this morning and the little hints about how best to win the lottery. Get on your knees, start praying now.
Prayers, you never know.
Look, let's talk about the Independent and the death of a maverick, as they put it.
Yes, Tony Benn. I mean, it's been a bad week for the left. And first Bob Crow died, and then Tony Benn. And yeah, I mean, Tony Benn was an amazing man, and in my view, I remember watching him being interviewed by Ali G, and he was the only one who, because he had such a firm belief in the goodness of people, which I think is what characterised him, the Ali G stuff just bounced off him because there wasn't any cynicism in him. I mean, we could say, as a politician, that I feel was very, very rare. So a really sad loss. But it's been interesting with him and Bob Crow, seeing the tributes, those that feel wholeheartedly that they can get behind, you know, the people of the left who get behind them, but also the way that Boris Johnson, David Cameron have had to do their tributes and have done it with sensitivity. But you could see, like, David Cameron's tribute to Tony Benn was very much, he was a good writer. I mean, it was nice.
See, I disagree. I thought Cameron's tribute was particularly good because he said he was, you know, he'd enthrall you with his speaking, even if you didn't agree with a single word he said.
Transcends political.
That's true, but you just imagine that, and he did do it with respect, and he did find areas where he could say good things about a deceased man. But there was just an awareness. I mean, same with Boris Johnson and Bob Crow. You saw how brilliant they were as politicians, that they did manage to spin it. But I just think it's a real... It's like then, I don't know if you remember the 9 o'clock news sketch, where in mid-sketch, two rival politicians, one of them keels over and dies, and the way that it instantly turns to, you know, he'll be sorely missed. And there's been some very impressive displays of that.
It seems like he, of all people, would actually hate that sense. He's so about being true to himself. And one of the interesting things I read was actually that his mother was a theologian and a feminist. So I wish I could have met her. But that she really raised him to have this moral stance. And I think the thing that I love about him is he was a politician of conviction, not a career politician.
And
I think whatever someone believes, if they're really living it out. And then my favourite story about him, I don't know if you know it, is that he actually put up a plaque in the House of Commons in a broom cupboard, where Emily Wilding Davidson, one of the suffragettes, hid. And she hid there because she wanted, obviously, to campaign for the vote. And by hiding there on the night of the census in 1911, she was able to get her address listed as the House of Commons, which gave her more of a right to vote. So he actually told the Speaker, I'm going to put up a plaque in this broom cupboard so no one ever forgets it. And if you go there and look at it, it literally says, you know, this is the place where Emily Wilding Davidson, the suffragette, hid to, you know, go on. And then she was then killed, if you remember, in the Derby by the King's Horse. And she was one of those seminal fighters that really swung the vote. So he's going to put this plaque in the broom cupboard, and I think that just is absolutely lovely.
I think that was the amazing thing about him, was there's just his sense of humanity and his sense of whether you approved of his policies or not. He really was sincere all the time, and that's why people go, who is like that now when you've got all these career
There was
politicians?
a lovely tribute I was listening to this morning, and they described him as a weapon of mass instruction and a dream weaver.
Those are great things to say. Wow.
Let's change tack, should we, to the... it's actually sticking with the Independent. Anti-gay evangelicals. This is a very tough one for theologians, isn't it, Vicky?
It is. It's interesting. So this is a comment piece written about the very controversial anti-gay bill that became law in Uganda about a month ago, outlawing homosexuality and giving a penalty of up to 14 years in prison. And the piece is actually saying that sometimes the assumptions we have about Ugandan culture aren't necessarily correct. So they're saying that this, obviously, same-sex relationships over there have never been condoned, but they're saying in this piece that they haven't actually been politically punished in the same way over the years, and that it was something that was not approved of, but a blind eye was typically turned to it. But since 1979 and the leadership change, they're actually seeing the influx of American, very conservative Christianity coming in and wielding a lot of power. And the piece actually traces different religious leaders who have come in from that wing of the church and have begun to kind of come in with this agenda. They've come in with money. They've been promoting this very anti-gay kind of paradigm and selling it to the leaders, actually meeting with the leaders from 79 onwards. And so it's to me it really raises a challenge, like as Christian people having an influence, especially in the developing world, what are we saying? And the importance of saying, actually, these people think the Bible says one thing, but many Christians, like myself, think the Bible says something quite different, and we actually believe that God can really be in favour of same-sex marriage, and that the Bible can say that. So it just grieves me to see Christians at the root of this, because so much suffering and persecution is going on, and I think people should be free to make their own minds up.
Where would you point to in the Bible that suggests that God approves of same-sex?
There's a whole lot of it. I'm doing some research on it at the moment, but if you look at specific verses, you can often say, you know, it says in Leviticus, you know, men shouldn't lie with men, but it also says in Leviticus you shouldn't eat shellfish, you shouldn't wear clothes of mixed fibres, not shellfish. You know, there's different ways of looking at the whole stretch of the Bible, you know, and pulling things out of context. If you look at the Bible in context, though, you see a God of love who's into love and faithfulness, and you can kind of extrapolate that and say, actually, love, commitment, they're a good thing. You know, if people are born gay, which I believe they are, how can a God of love not be in favour of that?
Well, there you go.
It's a theological conundrum for you.
Well, it is.
I'm not going to argue the opposite just for the sake of it. I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
David, look, you know, I know you like to argue the opposite, but you,
I know, but in that case,
struggle with that one.
Yeah, even I would say, yeah. I mean, you can't. I think some people do take. I'm Jewish, and people do take the Bible absolutely literally, but there are contradictions even within the Bible. So you are forced to make choices when you interpret the Bible, and I think one choice that one should definitely make is not to look at that. The only abomination that still is valid is the same-sex one, whereas all these other, the mixed fibre, is not.
Or lying,
valid.
or greed, or lust and things like that. You know, but I just think it's sad that
they're all good, those things.
Yeah, and I think when we get to situations like this where Christians are pushing an agenda, but at least both agendas need to be pushed, so that Christians are influencing Uganda, saying it could be this or it could be that. You know, they should be free to make their mind up. But I think when one particular wing of the church really exercises strong authority too much, it worries me.
It's like thought for the day.
Only better.
Which is better. Yeah.
Only visual.
Only visual. Look, we're going to take a short break. Back with more in just a moment. We're looking at the papers with David and with Vicky. Let's all get a grade A, should we? This is in the Times, I think, this morning.
Ah, yes. Yes, great. It's one of these things that really annoys traditional education people, is that this, if I can find the story, it's that we should start by giving children, all kids, all pupils, a grade A, according to the Royal Society of Arts. And that's just one of the ideas for motivating them in a different way. So they're talking about things like loss aversion, and I heard them talking on the radio, and that they're saying that, for example, if you've got £100 and you lose it, you feel that more keenly than gaining £100. I mean, not in weight, I mean in money. So the sense is that if people start off with a grade A, they will strive to keep it more because of this loss aversion.
But the problem is, what if they're simply not capable of a grade A in the first place? Then they have an awful way to drop.
Yes.
The only way is down.
But I think what they're also saying is that it's about looking at individual children and what they can achieve. It's about aiming for their own achievements and inspiring.
So their own grade A rather than the one that
give everybody a pass, mightn't it?
I think what I think, to be fair, is that the give all pupils A grade is one of those headlines thing that isn't the whole story. I think the truth of the story is that they look at kids in a different way of what it's about achievement and what they can achieve and trying to inspire kids. I don't think
believing the best, really, isn't it? Saying that until you prove me otherwise, I'm going to believe that you are completely and utterly capable.
I'm just intrigued that it comes from the Royal Society of Arts and not
the sciences. The sciences are saying
not an actual academic institution. Yeah, there you go. Look, we've got to take a break. We're out of time, I'm afraid, guys. See you in an hour. Back with all the top stories in a moment.